Hey everybody, Victor here. And for today we have yet another nation guide for a tag most of you probably forgot that's in the game. It's time to spread some surfer culture and freedom around the planet, brah. It's time for Hawaii. When it comes to the estates and privileges, for the most part, it's going to be pretty stock standard from what you've seen on this channel before. You're going to have the monarch point generators, and then you're going to have the loyalty, so you can keep seizing land. That's pretty much normal. However, there are two things that are worth talking about when it comes to the estates and privileges. First off, you have the patronage of the arts. Now, while most of you probably grant this anyway because prestige is pretty strong, there's actually a unique thing that you have to be aware of when it comes to the Hawaiian mission tree. And that is a lot of these early missions require you to hit a threshold in terms of prestige. So being able to grant this patronage of the arts, because that'll give you yearly prestige as well as a chunk of prestige when you grant it, is very, very useful. So granting this, taking it back, and re-granting it can get you over that threshold if you need it. However, Crown Land is always going to be more important. The second thing to keep in mind is of course, you start off at 4.999% Crown Land. So you're going to want to throw some Diplo or some military development into your capital here at the start of the game. So just be sure you turn on Encourage Development and then throw it down. Do this before you unpause. The reason why is it'll go up by 50% cost the moment you unpause, and you don't want to be dealing with that. Let's go ahead and move on to the rest of your country setup. Next, let's set up your military. Simply take your two Navy stacks here, merge them together, and mothball them. Next, you're going to be hiring up 5 galleys. The reason you are hiring all 5 is kind of simple. You're going to be attacking your neighbors for show strength. The problem is that, well, they start off with the exact same navy you do, and while fighting 1-to-1 might be okay, they tend to ally each other, which means you'll be fighting most likely 2-to-1, and trade ships and cogs are just not going to be able to handle that. However, 5 galleys on a coast will win that fight for you with your starting navy, so be sure you hire all 5. As far as your army is concerned, just go ahead and turn it off. No one's going to attack you, and why pay the money for something you can't even drill because you don't have the tech for it. Now let's go ahead and look at diplomacy. As far as your starting diplomacy and rivals, it's an incredibly easy setup. The reason why is because every time you start the game, Maui's going to rival you. On top of that, the only person you're able to rival is Maui, meaning you have a star-aligned target every time you start the game. You will be attacking Maui, period. That is your target. What can change, however, is who you happen to ally. You see, generally speaking, you're going to want to do what I did, which is ally Oahu here. However, when you start the game, there is a chance that Oahu will decide to also rival Maui, meaning there will be 2 people up here, you and Oahu, that are rivaling them. When this happens, you want to ally Kauai. The reason why you're doing it this way is pretty easy. By allying Kauai, you're diplomatically isolating Maui. They cannot ally you because of rivals. They cannot ally Oahu because of rivals. And they cannot ally Kauai because they're already allied to you. At least, generally speaking, they won't ally. On the other hand, by allying Oahu, I'm making sure that there's a break between them so they can't cross between these islands, even if I control the sea. So if you can't get them because Maui's only rivaled by you, grab Oahu just to break up your enemies. With all of that being said, your diplomacy and your rivals are set up. And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, I let the game play for about a week because I needed this event to fire so I can talk about the event as well as the mechanic that it represents so you guys can understand how you're basically going to have to play this game for about 50 years. So, the Makahiki event. Basically, between the months of November to April, you're going to have certain bonuses and certain penalties that are applied to your country, which make it so you should only do certain things at certain times. Namely, during the months between November and April, your development cost is doubled. This is why, before you unpause the game, you need to develop either Diplo or military development in your capital to get over that 5% Crown Land. If you wait, you're suddenly going from 56 power to 112, and obviously that's not a good thing. Next, you're going to have that stability cost modifier going down by 25%. This is why you're not using admin. You're immediately going to buy 1 stability because that will unlock other decisions, and I'll get to that in a second. Lastly, you take a stability hit to declare any war, whatever the claim, at any time. So between November and April, you are at peace. You are not starting any fights. If you're already in one, go for it. But you cannot declare during that time. And then lastly, you have 2 unrest reduction, which will help keep your rebels in line. Now let's go ahead and talk about that stability. Once you have that ability to get that stability cheaper, you're going to buy it. The reason why is because then you can go to religious sacrifices here and reduce that stability cost even further, which is nice, but you also get that yearly prestige. That yearly prestige will make you have a positive growth until you hit about 35 prestige. This will help you get these missions done. This is why you're buying that 1 stability now, because first off, it helps you get the missions done, and then second, it helps you start growing your prosperity here, and it'll make it so it's easier to develop later. At that point, it's now time to just let it unpause until you're able to declare your galleys are built and you're ready to go after somebody on a show strength. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. I'll bring you guys back when it's time to fight. See you then. And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, it is now go time to make Maui have a bad day. My navy is ready to go with 5 galleys and a decent admiral. I also have my army ready to go with a decent general. And during this time, I have been dev pushing feudalism, and you should be doing the same. Just be sure you don't do it between the months of November and April. You should be around this point. I lost some Diplo points, as you can see, to an event, but you should be perfectly fine. It's just not worth paying the 50% increased tech cost until you get feudalism out of the way. Now that that's been said, time to go ahead and declare and see if I can win against their navy. I should, again, have no problem. And it looks like I shouldn't have any problem at all. And now I simply walk onto this army, and the other army won't be able to get to me, allowing me to simply siege them out, win that fight, and then move on when I'm ready to go take care of the rest of them. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording again, because, well, not really fantastic content to just sit there and watch me watch a fort until it finally decides to fall. So I will see you guys in just a few minutes. And welcome back. The war is now over. I ended up getting onto Kauai, wiping out their army, and then just simply standing on their capital. They were willing to peace out, giving me 24 war score worth of money. So go ahead and do that, or take the war reps if you really want to. And then Maui over here, I'm going to go ahead and get the show strength off of. That'll give me 20 prestige, 100 of each monarch points, as well as 30 power projection. Meaning that, yeah, I'm going to be in a much better position, and I'll have more monarch points in order to dev, tech up, do all the things I need to do. As you can see, I ended up capturing another ship, another light ship, but either way, they're going back into port, they're going back into mothball status, and now I'm done. It's time to just chill a bit again, keep dev pushing, and get myself to the point where I have monarch points flowing out my ears, and I'm able to tech up and then start deving again for the next institution. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, because this is going to be a bit of me basically waiting and letting the years tick by before I can really start doing anything again. So I will see you guys in just a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. So it's been about a year in game time since I talked to you last, and I wanted to point something out. As you can see, I now have feudalism present in my province, meaning I can now embrace it for a ducat. Do not embrace it. The reason why is the moment you embrace feudalism, you are not going to have Maui as a rival anymore, which means you won't be able to get off another show strength. Instead, sit on it. You have 1,500 as your cap for power here. So just let it accumulate. Don't tech up, don't dev, just sit there and let it accumulate for a couple of years. The reason why is because then, when you're actually ready, you've gotten off another show strength, you can embrace it mid-war if you want to, and use that to tech up and just dumpster everybody around you. So for now, it is really just sitting there, accumulating as much money as you can, building a building or being prepared to build buildings when you're ready, and that's about it. So this really is going to be a couple of decades now before I'm really going to bring you guys back. So bear with me. I'll see you guys in just a second for you, and probably about a couple of hours for me. See you then. Welcome back, everybody. So I wanted to show you this because this is the end of the second show strength war against Maui. I was able to retain that rivalry by not embracing feudalism, even though I own Kauai and Oahu as well. So just do not embrace feudalism. And of course, as is before, I'm going to go ahead and show strength. And I have not embraced feudalism. I'm still not going to at this point. I still have another 150 power to go before I actually have to worry about it. Again, if you can get away with not embracing it for even longer, go for it. It's not actually holding you back. So I will show you guys in a little bit the next moves. See you then. And welcome back, everybody. So as you can see, I'm about to cap out on my monarch points, so it is time to embrace feudalism. Yes, I am now paying 20 ducats instead of 1. It was absolutely worth it, so I'm going to embrace. Now I am absolutely over my cap, so I'm going to embrace at least 2 rounds of tech, because that'll get me under the point threshold. At this point, it's time to sit and hold onto your points again. The reason why is you are waiting for Oahu here to have feudalism full. The reason why is if you click any of these, you will be spreading feudalism, not Renaissance, and you want to be deving it in Oahu for 2 reasons. 1, they have cloth, so it reduces the dev cost there. 2, they have a port here, meaning you can now upgrade this, and suddenly you have the ability to reduce it even further. Now, if you don't have the money, this is going to be something you guys need to be aware of. Dev pushing into Hawaii can help you out here. Because I know a lot of you probably just sat there and went, why are you dev pushing admin in Hawaii? Because you can burn it for money. And by burning this, I'll have enough money to upgrade this port to reduce the dev cost of everything else, allowing me to get Renaissance just that much cheaper. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording again because I need to let this naturally spread feudalism through my land here before I dev the Renaissance, and then I'm going to dev Renaissance and keep going. So I will see you guys in a little bit, but just in case you guys weren't aware, yeah, I'm going to lose Maui as a rival at this point. There's not any real way to stop that from happening. But with all that being said, I'll see you guys soon. And welcome back, everybody. So it's the 1500s, and it is time to continue with the guide. The first thing to talk about is, of course, spawning colonialism. Now, generally speaking, I always recommend you spawn colonialism in your game, unless, of course, you're starting in the New World, and then you can't. But here's the thing, you also cannot as Hawaii, even though you're technically Old World. The reason for that is, in order for you to spawn it, the province it spawns in has to be in Europe, Africa, or Asia. You are in Oceania, meaning you don't qualify. The closest province for you, given the colonial range, in order to actually have it spawn in your provinces, is all the way over here. This is how far you have to travel to spawn it there. And right now, I am Tech 7 with the advisor to extend my colonial range, and you don't have that range. So you'd have to dev up 2 institutions and get enough tech in order to colonize, which generally you'll have to get to Tech 7 just to reach over here, fully develop a colony there, colonize over here, fully develop a colony there in order to have at least 1 province that will allow you to spawn it. Meaning, you're not going to unless you get a 666 as a ruler at some point. And if you can, perfect, fantastic. If you can't, it's not the end of the world. Now that that's been said, let's talk about the next thing, and that is where you're colonizing in the New World. Because there's 2 general strategies on how to get the achievement for Hawaii, and generally how to push your way into the New World. So let's go ahead and start with the first one, which is California. Now, I want to say before I actually get into the 2 independent strategies, both of them involve 2 very important things. 1, you have to colonize Olon here. This is San Francisco. It is a grasslands province, meaning you can dev push colonialism here, allowing you to actually, have the institution. And that's very important. Second, both of them are really designed to get you the achievement of forming the United States as Hawaii. In order to do that achievement, you actually have to make it to the eastern seaboard over here. Own, I believe it's 5 or 10 provinces, have your capital there, and then, of course, click the button. Now, there's obviously 2 ways of doing this. The first one is you have your capital moved here into California, and then you conquer your way through to the other side of the continent. Now, this is not exactly difficult, especially early on, but basically you'll be fighting a lot of European countries eventually. Early on, you're fighting the native tribes, and if you look at the tech difference, I'm Tech 8, they're generally Tech 4. Meaning, they'd have to outnumber me about 5 to 1 to really have a chance of absolutely dominating over me. That's not likely. So if you want to have a full campaign conquering your way through, you can absolutely do that. And if you want to make it a little bit easier, you can absolutely go Horde to do it as well. So feel free to do that if you want. The alternative, however, which is significantly faster, but of course doesn't have a full campaign behind it, is you use this province right here in San Francisco to get the range to come down here to Darien. You see, Panama here faces the Atlantic, which means in order for me to colonize and have the colonial range to colonize Panama, I'd have to colonize here, and then down here in Chile, and then up in Brazil, to finally maybe reach Panama. And I can't use any of the provinces over here. Darien, on the other hand, faces the Pacific. And because it directly borders Panama, that meets the range requirement. Meaning I can colonize Darien, let it complete, colonize Panama, let it complete, and now I can reach both sides of the Atlantic. Once I have Panama, you build 3 lightships, and you explore the area. Once you can see the eastern seaboard, you make certain that you are done with exploration ideas, because the capstone is you're able to fabricate a claim anywhere in the New World. You simply find a tribe there, you drop a claim on them, you move your army over, let them sit in non-claimed land or non-provincial land, but tribal land, conquer them, take their tribal land, core it up, move your capital over there, and click the button. You can do it with just 5 provinces over here if you really want. Just make certain you move your capital over so that it doesn't spawn a colonial nation, and then you can move it over after, and you're done. Now, let's talk about the Europeans, because I know a lot of people are going to freak out about the Europeans attacking them, so let's talk about that real quick. Now, while I'm certain most of you know how this mechanic works, I will go ahead and cover it for those of you who don't. Basically, if you have your capital in the New World, you are allowed to attack colonial nations with complete impunity. This counts whether you're Pima or Aztecs, which start in the New World, or if you move your capital over. So if I move my capital from Hawaii to San Francisco, I can attack colonial nations. What this means is let's say I colonize Panama and I'm moving up to the eastern seaboard. On the way, I notice Portugal owns all of the Caribbean. All of it. And it's all owned by a colonial nation called Cuba. Let's just say that's true. I can attack Cuba, and Portugal will not come in as long as I have my capital in the New World. Now, Portugal can enforce peace. What that means is they give you a demand, an ultimatum, saying, hey, you either peace out right now, white peace, don't take anything, or we're getting involved. Here's the thing. Whether it is Portugal that does it, England that does it, Castile that does it, doesn't matter. It's not that big of a threat. Or if they attack you directly, let's say you colonize Panama, and since everyone that's a colonizer in this game guns for Panama like nothing else, they may attack you directly. In either of these instances, you don't have much to worry about, because at the end of the day, the AI is truly terrible when it comes to invading continents. The reason why is because the AI is really bad at moving armies from one continent to another. They will try and send their entire army of, let's say, 100,000, 5,000 troops at a time. So you're sitting in Panama, watching as the Portuguese sailors go to invade Darien over here, and you simply let them step off the boat, walk towards you, walk back into Darien, and not only take the jungle bonuses for you as defensive bonuses, but also the naval invasion ones. Meaning that even if the British are attacking you with equal numbers, they're not going to win. As long as you don't have a massive tech disparity, you're not going to lose that fight. So they're not really that intimidating. So don't feel like you have to be afraid of England, France, Castile, Portugal, because they're really not that intimidating until they actually have a sizable colony over here. All you need to do is make sure they don't get that, either by picking apart their colonial nations once they hit 5 provinces, or simply letting them throw their army at you but when they slowly walk off the boat. Just be aware, what they are really good at is getting naval dominance in the area. So if you're declared on by Portugal, you're not moving through the Caribbean for quite a while. So don't anticipate them allowing you to move, because you're absolutely not going to do it. Now, let's just briefly talk about how to move your capital for those that aren't aware. Now, in order to move your capital from the old world to the new, you have to fulfill some very basic requirements. Specifically, you have to have your capital province be the only province within a state on the continent it's located at, which for you would be Oceania. Now, that seems pretty simplistic, especially since you have a subcontinent map mode here and it's color-coded. Unfortunately, this is a very misleading map mode for that purpose. You see, while you're in blue and all of this is actually in Oceania, that's accurate. Papua New Guinea here, which is in orange, is also in Oceania. Meaning, if you had colonized this province here, which is a grasslands province, hoping to move there, possibly dev up colonialism, and then move over again, or even just move over straight up, it's not going to work. Not unless you unstate everything else, which is obviously a problem. However, there's an easier way of doing this without having to colonize anywhere else in the old world, and that is you simply have to release Oahu. Now, by releasing Oahu and handing over the other two provinces, you'll be down to just your capital province in the entire world, allowing you to move over once this is done being colonized. Now, yes, this is the province where you devved Renaissance, so that's a lot of money to leave on the table, but you'll get it back in 10 years, and honestly, it's still worthwhile, because it'll increase your force limit, and it really doesn't drop your income that much. But you'll be able to punch up a lot more income out of all the tribes across North America, and it'll make it up for it. But with that, you guys should be more than capable of having fun as Hawaii and getting this achievement done and dusted. Now, if you guys like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll definitely be making more of it, so I'll see you guys in future videos. If you want to see a different kind of content, whether that's a Let's Play or anything else, let me know in a comment below. I am looking for other content to make because it'll be a little bit easier for me than having to do a bunch of research to make a video every week, because it does take me several days worth of time to make one of these videos. So if you want to see more content, let me know different kinds of content, because that'll be far easier for me to make. But with all of that being said, thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all have a wonderful day.